Hi guys, Kelly here from the Beagle Lady. It's Billy. He's desperate to get on my lap. As promised, I know it's a little bit later than I said I would. About how to deal with hyper puppies, hyper dogs who jump up at you when you get home or when your guests arrive, and it can be seriously annoying. It can also hurt because they're quite, even though they're medium-sized dogs, they can cause bruising, especially to older people who've got thinner skin. Billy's growling. So what can you do to try and prevent this? Well, I use two techniques, and the first one is that when so to train your beagle to be calm around your visitors, you have to first of all train them to be calm around you. So we had this with Daisy. She was like a pogo stick, bouncy, 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 bouncy. So we would come in and go straight into our kitchen and shut the kitchen gate, and so that she couldn't get any access to us. And she would bark, whine, bounce around, jump, 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 and we would just totally ignore her the whole time. And then when she'd finally calmed down, we'd give it another 5 minutes. So she needed to be calm for another 5 minutes before we then would engage with her. But if she then went back to bouncing around and getting too hyper and chucking herself around the lounge, we went back to ignoring her again. So we would then take ourselves away and ignore her, and then again wait for her to calm down again, and wait for that full 5 minutes of her being nice and calm. So usually she'd go and sit on the sofa, and then we would engage with her. And what that taught her as well is that we only ever engaged with her when she had all four paws on the ground, and only when she was calm. So now, I mean, she is like the calmest dog you'll ever meet. We come home and she's on the sofa, and she rarely even gets off it now, because she knows that we'll go to her when we're ready, and that she's in a better position to just stay where she is, and then we're more likely to engage with her. And then if she does come and greet us, all four paws are on the ground, she's a little bit excited, a little waggy tail, but she never jumps up anymore. So that was one technique that you can use. Now that is something that you need to use every single time you come home. And you have to be consistent, because if you're not consistent with it, then your beagle is going to think, well, one day she does it and one day she doesn't. So what is it they want me to do? Oh, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, bouncing around like a loon. And so then what you start to do is you ask your guests to do exactly the same thing. So they mimic what you do. So when they come into the house, they go straight into your kitchen, or they ignore the dog. And don't engage with the dog until your beagle, until they're calm. And then if they go back to being bouncy again, then you go back to ignoring, and you just keep repeating that. And over time it gets easier and easier, and the dog starts to learn. What you can do to reinforce the learning is that when her four paws are on the ground and she's being calm, you can also scatter some treats on the floor, because then that still encourages the beagle to have four paws on the ground, which leads me on to scattering. So the other thing you can do to try and keep them on the floor and not bouncing around at your guests is to scatter feed them. So have some treats ready, so that when you or your guest comes into the house, you can scatter them on the floor. They will then eat the treats. You can then have the opportunity to sort of bend down and crouch down, so that you're on their level as well, and you can then stroke them whilst they're all four paws on the ground. If they start to get a bit too hyper and they're trying to jump up and stuff like that, again, scatter the food onto the floor. And you're encouraging them then that the best way to get the treats is to have all four paws on the ground. Now, the reason why your beagles tend to jump up at you like a yo-yo is, you might have noticed this, they like to sniff your face. It's a very, very, very strong trait in both of my beagles, that in the morning when we wake up, we greet each other by sniffing each other's faces. So the dog will come and sniff my face. And that's what they're doing when they're jumping up and they're trying to greet you or greet your guests. It's a sign of greeting, to sniff the face. They get lots of information from the smell, about you, the person that they're greeting. So if you can get yourself lower down to the ground and let them have that sniffy sniff, then they're less likely to bounce around like a yo-yo. The other question you guys asked me about is counter surfing. This is a pretty difficult one. The reason why your beagle is doing it is that the first time they tried it, because it was exciting and they're like bloody mountain goats, beagles, is when they got up there would have been some kind of food trace up there. So it might have been some crumbs, they might have found a bit of bread, a bit of biscuit, or they might have licked the counter and it tasted of food. And then that sticks in their brain, because they're hunting dogs, and what they tend to do is when they go on a hunt where they found the prey, when they go and hunt again, they always go there first because their brains are programmed to do that. The likelihood of prey being there again is high because they found it there. Mr. Tubbs, that's enough, please. I've got a Frenchie today for a trial, and he's a little bit barky. So it's going to be hard to stop them doing that because they got food, they got some kind of food, and they're inquisitive, and they will keep going up there in the hope that there will be more food. Again, what I do, there's two things you can do. I have to have a stair gate on my kitchen because I board as well. I just don't have time to train all of the dogs, so unfortunately they just are not allowed in my kitchen. But if you have like an open planned area, what you want to do again is have some treats on the counter and scatter like 2 or 3 onto the floor, so that they learn that the food actually is coming from the floor. So if they try to jump up, Mr. Tubbs, thank you. If they try to jump up, you would ignore them. And if they do jump up on the counter, you get them back down again. And then as soon as all 4 paws are on the ground, you would scatter some more food on the floor. And what you're encouraging them to do, Mr. Tubbs, you're very loud today. You're encouraging them to stay on the floor, because every now and then, sort of every couple of minutes or so, you're going to scatter some food on the floor, and they're going to be like, ooh, so if I stay on the floor, I get food. So try those little tips. With Billy, unfortunately he doesn't like people, so we have to try a different technique when the visitors come into the house. But yeah, it's consistency, and also if they really are jumping up at your visitors and hurting them, then I used to put Daisy on a lead as well initially, so that when people came into the house, I had complete control over her. She didn't have that opportunity to jump up and hurt people. So that's another cue as well to do. And also with your guests, ask them to scatter the food on the floor as well whilst you've got them on the lead, because again, you're teaching your beagle that actually it's better to stay on the floor, because that's where all the good stuff happens. And then if your guest is able to, if they're not got problems with their knees or they're elderly, then they can crouch down and encourage the dog to keep their 4 paws on the ground. So I hope that helps. It'd be easier for me to show you how to do it, which I will try and do a video in the next few days to show you what I mean, because I know sometimes visual is better than listening to my voice. So it's absolutely pelting down here at the moment. That's Willow. And we've got, there's Billy over there, and we've got a couple of others around, but we're staying inside the summer house, and they're all going home shortly, apart from Billy, because obviously he lives with me. So I'll see you later. Bye.